Welcome, my friend, to the Be the Frequency podcast, where we talk all things business, healing, manifestation, and following your dharma or your soul's purpose. My name is Shalane Carter, and I'm the entrepreneur's healer. I'm here blending spirituality and success because you can have both. I help women all over the world heal their subconscious beliefs that are keeping them from making these big moves in their life that lead to more impact and income. If you're looking for a place where you can be inspired and laugh, feel seen and heard, and where you'll discover more about yourself and how to be the best version of you while making money at doing what you love, then this is the podcast for you. Are you ready? Let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Frequency. I am so jazzed after I recorded a podcast today with one of my favorite people, kind of all talking about this sense of like taking care of yourself, and kind of made this joke, which really led me to be like, oh, I really want to share and kind of dive deeper into this. I feel like a lot of people will really appreciate this, but this practice of kind of self-discipline and things like that. And we were like talking, and tell me if this is you. Okay. So kind of think to yourself right now, like, how many times do you say you're going to start something and you're like, hey, I'm going to start this workout regimen, or I'm going to start this diet, or I'm going to start meditating, or I'm going to start doing yoga, or I'm going to start, journaling every night, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Pick your poison. Okay. And you're like, oh, I'm going to start doing this. And it happens a couple of times, and then you kind of fall off. And I see this a lot with my clients, and because they come to me for healing work and I end up with a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, a lot of times you're coming to me although I have some programs that teach you kind of all these basic skills, especially for a digital offer and program, or something that could be done virtually, or even I do have some clients that we work together that they're building an in-person business. But when I am talking to them, like, they don't need me to tell them, okay, you do exactly this, and then you do this in marketing, and then that kind of creates your momentum in business. Really, what we're looking at is, they're like, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Why can't I get past these certain things? Why can't I get past certain money plateaus? Why do I feel so much resistance around this part of my business? Why do I kind of have these like emotional and like roller coaster type experiences when it comes to my business? So when you're ready to hire me kind of one-on-one, you're really ready to take your business to the next level. I have other kind of lower ticket offers that people can get into to learn how to structure their business, learn the energy of business, learn how to really align with their soul's purpose. But once you're ready to work with me one-on-one, you're looking at, okay, well, how do I up level literally my energetic body to be able to hold more, to be able to increase my capacity to have more money, to hold more people in my containers. And when we kind of start to look at this, this is what I see most often, is that we often, what I do is I'm like, okay, let's look at what you're doing every single day. Because every single day is creating the environment in which you're perpetuating some kind of experience. So take a look at your life, take a look at the goals, right? We just said, hey, think of a goal that you're like, yeah, and kind of only did it once or twice. When you were looking at that goal and you're like, hey, I want, let's use fitness as an example, because I've used this in kind of many iterations. At one point I've been 50 pounds heavier, and lost weight. I've, built, this is my third business that I'm building now. And I've used this type of awareness and this type of practice over and over and over again. And it really does work. It's not complicated. And I think so many times we think discipline is kind of the masculine word that is used, and it often has associations with it, like pushing through, this is like the 75 hard type stuff, that you're pushing through no matter what. When I'm starting to work with clients, I'm like, okay, if you're ready to go to the next level in your business, if you're ready to I hate to put it kind of so bluntly, but you're so sick of your own shit. You kind of have to get to that point. In fitness, you're like, I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of having pain. I'm tired of having chronic illness. I'm tired of the pain is more than change would be. The pain of staying the same is more painful than the change that would have to happen. So when we talk about, I think that we kind of look at implementing any of these things and we think, I just need to be really disciplined. I just need to have this really healthy push and this all or nothing, blinders on type mentality. I want to give you a different perspective because I think what actually needs to come is not put blinders on and numb away the feelings. I think we need to do the opposite, actually. When you're ready to take things to the next level, when you're ready to really be committed to change, when you're ready to up level your life, what you need is not just discipline, but you also need a sense of devotion, which I think is more the feminine essence of any type of practice of habit. Discipline is taking action to make this change, right? It's something that's habitual. But when you think about devoted, if you are devoted to your health, it's loving. You're doing these practices because it's a form and an expression of love. Discipline seems more in survival mode. Devotion is more in this space of open giving, open receiving, open to change. And I think this is what a lot of us are missing. The thing that kind of has to happen if you're wanting to really make this huge change in your life, as this airs, I just opened cart for Master Manifester. This has been something that has been kind of living on a Google Doc of like, I need to birth this. I need to create this. Master Manifester is this 4-week program. It's a blend of science and spirituality. And it's something that is not out there in the manifestation world. It's not out there in the world of let's change your brain, let's change your energy, let's change what's going on in the subtle so it is then affected and represented in the physical. I had to be in a space where I'm like, how can I be, this is kind of my whole year actually, when I look at what's kind of rolling out this next year, how can I be so devoted to my craft, so devoted to my gift, so devoted to my business and my community and the way that I serve? What has to go? And that was actually the question. It wasn't that what I needed to do, it's actually what I needed to get rid of that was preventing me from my practice of devotion for my business. And I recognized there were several things actually. And I started last month kind of what I call trimming. So I'm trimming these practices that I'm like, I don't necessarily want to do that never. And I don't necessarily want to get rid of that completely. But the capacity that it's at right now with this realm is too much. It's too much for me to be able to do this and do this at the same time. And a lot of times when people see you saying no to things, whether it be, you're like, hey, I have like work that needs to get done. They're like, oh, just come out. You work for yourself, don't you? Or you're on this health journey and you're like, I really only want to eat out once a week because I want to be really mindful of how my food is being prepared, of what I'm eating, how much I'm eating of it, how the oils and additives that are in it. And when you go out, it's a lot more unpredictable. And so to really be devoted to my health and my practice of maintaining my health, I want to limit that. And when people do this all the time, when you say, hey, I don't drink, and they're like, what? Blah. They've always got something to say. I think when you come to any type of practice, I think when you're looking to better yourself, you think on the other side of this experience, on the other side of this weight loss, on the other side of this income goal being hit, on the other side of, marrying my partner is happiness, is joy, is love. Like, then I will feel all of these things. And what you're actually missing is that what you're wanting to feel is a byproduct of the experience that you have to have in order to get there. People who have been in relationships for a long period of time and are in healthy, good relationships will tell you that there may have been an initial attraction, but the relationship and the love actually grows with more experiences and time together. So it's not saying that they didn't initially have curiosity, that they didn't initially have momentum. Think about when you were like, hey, I'm going to lose some weight. And you're like, initially, I had the momentum, I had the drive, I had the determination and motivation. But that weans when that initial spark starts to fall away. And I think when we do practices or we make any change out of a place of hard discipline, where I'm just going to muscle my way through it and I'm just going to kind of do those things, then what happens is there's this huge gap of what I want to feel is more happiness, joy, love, peace. And the way that I'm getting there is through difficulty, is through identifying with struggle, is pushing through, it is numbing, it is, a lot of things that I think when you look at it from just a discipline perspective, you're trying to get to a space of love and openness and expansion and more freedom, and you're doing it in a way that is actually closed. So when we look at what is the greatest act of self-love that you can do, it's being devoted to yourself, whatever that looks like. So for me, some of my like devotional practices and rituals that really have changed, I am telling you, changed my whole fucking life. And I was so resistant towards this. I was really initially drawn into yoga. So I remember my first yoga class. I was 20. I was 20 years old. Maybe I had just turned 21. And I was like, now would be a great time to start yoga. I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby. Probably need to be flexible for that. I don't know. I don't know. But I had this draw. That was my first class. And it was mostly done. I feel like I vividly remember only being on a bouncy ball for this yoga. And so I don't remember if I did any other yoga during that class. Like, I don't remember if there was a down dog. I literally remember nothing but being like, this is really not what I thought this was going to be like as I'm on this ball. So I had this draw and it kind of went in and out. I would hop on YouTube because, again, I was broke. I was on state aid. I had, at this point now, like 2 kids, because my kids are just shy of 2 years apart. I had 2 kids under 2. I couldn't afford a gym membership. And I would pop in on YouTube sometimes and kind of watch things and stretch and stuff like that. And there was always kind of that draw for me. And it really did become, now over my life, I feel like it's something that will always be there. It comes in waves where I'm practicing more than others, or the style that my body's really enjoying, my mind is really enjoying changes. Physical, like asana practice was always kind of a natural gravitation for me. But what actually probably changed me the most, and I was a little more resistant to, or I had a lot of stories around why I couldn't, which I feel like I hear all the time from my clients. So I'm saying this, I hear you because I have been you, and sometimes I still am you from time to time when I sit, because it's hard. But meditation has changed my life. This is a ritual. I don't listen to traditional guided meditations that are just for relaxation. I'm either silent, focusing on being able to access the quantum, which I'll go over. We have all of these things in Master Manifestor. So it has all of these activations, which are different from meditations. In my sphere, guided meditations are great for relaxation. When you're in fight or flight, when your body doesn't know how to regulate itself, that's really when you're wanting a meditation, somebody who can kind of guide you through some of those experiences. For me, an activation is very different. An activation is something that's similar. It's like a kind of a guided meditation or a guided experience, but it is actually meant to activate your DNA. It's meant to activate areas in the brain that will start to make different associations, that will start to change the brain. So those are very different in my mind. I am only doing for myself either a silent meditation where I'm trying to silence all thoughts. It's like a Vipassana style, if you're familiar, or I'm doing an activation. There's something, and sometimes it's a combination of both, depending on what I'm trying to work on or the intention of the sit that day. But it didn't start that way. It started with being like, okay, I need some type of practice. I was building my first business. I had 2 kids. I was a single mother and I was making good money, but I felt frazzled. I kind of made a joke the other day. I was like, to be honest with you, my caffeine consumption, I'm not sure how my heart did not literally jump out of my chest, because the amount of caffeine, I had this like coffee in the morning. It was called Electric Buzz and it had way more caffeine. It's no longer available to purchase. And then I would also go get a venti cold brew, which also has a ton of caffeine. And sometimes I would have another coffee, or I would have a soda, or I would have something like, I'm like, how was I alive? But I needed something where I was like, I was so in my mind. I was consumed sometimes of, depending on what was going on, like romantic stories of, whether I was unworthy or unlovable or, and then it would like swing the other way. And I'm like, I know that I'm not, but I'm feeling these feelings and I would swing like that. Or because of money, I would swing like, I don't understand. Like, I'm such a great business person. This business is thriving. I'm making 6 figures a year, but I'm still technically living like paycheck to paycheck and like just grappling with these two realities that I knew could be true for me, that this part of me that could do all of these things and was so powerful and so magnetic, but I was grappling with these like felt like half truths that would like come in and tell their stories and it was so loud sometimes in my mind that sitting for 5 minutes and just trying to not have a fucking thought was so difficult but brought me so much peace. And part of it wasn't the meditation itself, it was that I showed up no matter what. I showed up and sat down, whether it was 5 minutes, whether it was 20 minutes. After I did my yoga teacher training, that's really kind of when I started meditating a lot more, because it was part of the training. And then, it was kind of hit or miss. I would go through like stints of like 30 days and I'd miss a day and I'd be like, oh, I got to like day 45. And I remember being so pissed. I had gotten to day like 160 or 180, somewhere around there, and like accidentally missed a day. And I was like, what? So mad. And then I was like, no, this is exactly what it's about. It's about that sometimes you're going to mess up or sometimes you're going to forget, but it's not the majority. The majority is showing up for myself. So when I started doing this practice, where it kind of started in like yoga and fitness, where I started showing up for myself, but I feel like it had so much of a physical reward, right? I started losing weight. I started really appreciating the way that my body was operating. I felt like I moved so much better and stuff like that. So I feel like there was like this like dopamine hit, this kind of like reward already, but the mind part was a little harder to find, not some type of quote unquote reward, but that where I could get out of my mind and truly feel the practice, like the benefits of it. And it just took longer. And I think some of these practices that are essentially better for you as a human, better for you as a soul, as a spirit, as this like evolving consciousness, are the ones that are a little bit harder. There's always like a gateway drug. And I feel like yoga is often like a gateway drug. It's like a gateway drug to spirituality. They're like, get them to do some asana practice, get them to like wiggle around and stretch and, get into triangle. And maybe then they want a headstand and joke's on you because you start to find these moments of peace within your mind. You start to find where, as you focus on your breathing, your muscle of concentration gets so much stronger. And it started to ripple down into everything I was doing. If I wanted, when I wanted to change something in my life, I needed to know that I could commit to something. And even if I missed a day, even if I messed up, that I was so committed and loyal to myself. I had this devotion that was unshakable, and I would come back to it. And so when my clients come to me and they're like, hey, I want to make some of these changes, what are practices that you can do that make you feel like you're getting closer to the type of person that you want to be? And it's okay if it's going to be a little bit difficult. I want you to keep a promise to yourself. When you start to keep promises to yourself, it is the greatest act of self-love that you can do. This devotion to not just your goals, but your highest timeline. And that is the huge shift that starts to happen. When I started to do things that my future self wanted, is when honestly I started to unlock kind of this key of like, oh, this is how we quantum leap. Oh, this is how we jump. And that's, my life started to change and change rapidly when I started doing this. One, the meditation, because it was difficult. It still is difficult. I sit down sometimes and like 5 minutes goes by and I'm like, cool, I have thoughts for 5 minutes with no regard. I've just let them come and go and just like listen to this inner dialogue. And so what I needed was something that required me to have so much love for myself and so much loyalty to myself, to my soul, to my highest timeline, that it trumped what my current timeline was. So if you're wanting to change your life, understand that it's not affirmations and vision boards and all of these types of things. Those are crystals, those are all really great tools. But it has to be some kind of devotion to this timeline, no matter what. And it starts, we go over this in Master Manifestor. I'm going to teach you all of these things, but it goes beyond just, again, like a practice that is kind of easy. Usually sitting down and journaling every single day, or meditating every single day, or even exercising every single day, breath work every single day. A lot of these things that get you out of your head and into your body, you feel the most resistant towards because your body wants the immediate gratitude. It wants the dopamine hit. And so it will give you a little bit of resistance. And instead of fearing this resistance and being like, I'm just going to go harder, instead you're like, I see why you're coming up. It's because that's the old timeline that I'm on. And as I'm trying to shift some of these things, as I'm so devoted to this highest timeline of myself, there's going to be some parts that are resistant to change at first. And that's okay. So when I feel the resistance, I'm not shying away from it anymore. I'm leaning into it. I'm like, okay, cool. This year, I'm like doubling down on meditation because I got plans. I'm serious. Double down on meditation. I spent more time sitting with a quiet mind, or with a mind that was doing something intentional, with my energetic body engaged, with all of my bodies being tended to. And as a byproduct, my business is doing so much better just from that shift. It's the only thing I've done different. I've spent more time doing less. If you take anything from this episode, I want you to take one thing. Find a practice that feels like a practice of self-love, that feels like a practice to your highest timeline, the highest and best version of you, and be relentlessly committed to it, so devoted to it, with so much love, and it will start to transition and transform the way that you experience life. I've seen clients that could never lose weight, have done all of the diets. All of a sudden, their movement practice, where I'm like, stop thinking of it like something to check off the checklist. Start thinking of it like you do this like luxurious bubble bath or a day at the spa or getting a massage. That it's this practice of your health. It's investing in future you. And all of a sudden, the weight started to move real easy. Same things happen for some of my clients in business. I'm like, hey, what if creating content wasn't this laborious task, but it was something that's your creative expression? Start just writing about experiences, writing about what you want people to feel, writing about what you're going through, how you see them, you know where they're at because you've been there before. Start writing like that. And then just move it into whatever medium you want to use, video, blog, whatever, podcast. Stop looking at it as just a task to check off in your business and start looking at it as a way that you're expressing yourself, that this is how you're getting your truth out into the world so that you can help more people instantly. Clients, instantly, offers, instantly, engagement goes up. It is wild how changing your practices and the way that you feel about them, from one that is a feeling of discipline, it's hard and white knuckled and, blinders on and kind of this more masculine state, to a little bit more of the feminine state where it's devoted. It's from a space of love. And you come back to it with loyalty over and over. This is the greatest act of self-love you can do, is to be devoted to your highest timeline. I hope that you take something from this and you apply it today. Share this episode. Everybody needs to hear this. Every woman in your life needs a reminder of this. Share it with somebody that you love. Share it with somebody that needs to know how much they are loved because you sent this to them. Maybe they need the reminder that they are worthy of being taken care of, that they are worthy of these things that are pulling at them to do. They know, they're like, it's like there's this like weird magnetism between, them and, maybe their job or their career or their this business that they're trying to create. And maybe they kind of hem and haw and they like don't go all in, and you're like, just go all in. You're meant for this. Send this to somebody who needs to be reminded that they are worthy of feeling committed to feel this sense of devotion from the inside, to feel loved so it can ripple out from them and truly affect change. I love you. I'm so, so grateful that you listened to this episode. And if you are interested in really becoming this master manifester, kind of talked about it a bit through this episode of really being able to hone in on the science and spirituality of manifesting. This is, I am telling you, the holy grail. And there are things in here that I know manifestation gurus are keeping from you. I'm spilling it all. I'm spilling the tea. It's going to be here. It's going to be phenomenal. And we start on April 1st. The link is in the show notes. You can always check that out. Sign up. Until next time. Cheers. This podcast is intended for information and entertainment only. This content is based in personal experience and opinion. This and any other content produced by CLW Studios is not meant to be taken as health, relationship, or financial advice. Results are not guaranteed. If you are interested in mentorship or coaching with me, check out the website linked in the show notes to get more information. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of Shalane or CLW Studios. Learn more about Shalane, her guests, and CLW Studios by following the links in the show notes.